And we are live. Okay, just like normal, everybody remember we are now recorded. As you know, the final project for this semester is to produce a suggested bit of legislation. I want to talk about this assignment. Today's class is dedicated to proposing a bill. Okay? And everything that goes into proposing a bill. We're going to talk a little bit about the structure of federal law. I want your bills, since the students are spread out all around the country, it doesn't make sense to evaluate individual state bills because I'm not going to be able to bundle them up and send them to just one individual to have an impact. And the goal of this assignment is to have an impact. Okay? And so, has anybody identified an area of law that they're interested in? I think you're interested in self-driving cars and such, right? You see that there's an issue there. You said that before class. You see issues there. Hey, online guys, have you guys identified an issue throughout the semester that you think lacks sufficient oversight, or that the old laws are a hindrance or anything? Just an area, yes or no, or scream out the area, or type it in the window, whatever. If you just type it in, I'll keep talking. Hopefully you have started to figure out something that you care about that you don't think is handled well, whether it's encryption, privacy, liability, speech, bullying, whatever, right? Or copyright. Because Josh was very clear right up front that he cares about copyright. Yes?
Somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah. Okay. Trespassing on systems, the 1986 Computer Fraud Abuse Act. We've covered all these things. So now I need you to start figuring out where you saw a weakness, where you saw a lack, or where you saw overzealousness, right? Remembering that we use the Constitution as the basis for every bit of law in the country, every regulation attached to those laws. Where do you see laws, or the trending in laws, or the trending of opinion where laws should be in opposition to the Constitution, or where the Constitution would fit? Are you going to propose a constitutional amendment? You're allowed to do that, because you can send a constitutional amendment to your congressman, who is then allowed to propose such a thing, right? Because constitutional amendments can originate either at the federal government and then get ratified by the states, or the states can get together and propose them themselves, right, in a constitutional convention. Those are the two ways. It usually goes the other way, where it goes through Congress and then to the legislatures, historically, right? Yes, no? Cool. Hi, Roll. So,
Hello.
the first thing I want to, I'm going to turn the volume down just a little. I think I did make that the voice of God too literally, as you all thunder from the speakers above us. The first thing I want to review, / beat into your heads, / if you missed it the first time, it's not review, is the distinction between the Constitution, the USC, and the CFR. The Constitution is known as the law of the land, but it establishes in the Constitution, it gives the right to Congress to make and establish laws so long as they're ratified according to the Constitution, right? So what's the distinction? Does the Constitution have more power, or does that law have more power? Or does that law, we know that that law is actually built upon the power of the Constitution, right? As long as it went through the right system. Where do we codify that law made by Congress? Where do the laws codified by Congress reside? Where they can be reviewed? Huh? I just said it. The United States Code, USC, okay? There is a huge difference between USC and CFR, Code of Federal Regulation. U.S. Code are those laws passed by Congress. Your legislative approach will be at the USC level. That's the first thing you need to understand, okay? Or you will be providing guidance through your legislation to an agency to impact the CFR. Because agencies, after you've worked with you studied the FCC a little, right, earlier in the semester. You studied net neutrality, you studied some of those other things. Much of those rules are stored in and referred to in CFR, not USC, right? So CFR 47.1. FAA, all of their rules are in CFR because they're not law, they're regulation. They have the power of law because they are backed by law, which is backed by the Constitution. If you think of it like a hierarchy thing, the Constitution is the big base, and the top is the CFR, and it's supported, right? Although in reality, the Constitution is this little bitty thing that's an inverted pyramid, right? And it's because you can't expect Congress to be able to properly legislate, and people get mad when they try, properly legislate every single little nuance of the law. They're supposed to present a law that can be interpreted broadly by an agency which understands the context that the law is aimed at, to establish the regulations based on public feedback. That's why you frequently have a comment period, right? The FCC net neutrality rules, they go out for comment. The FAA drone rules, they go out for comment. And then they come back, they're voted on by the commission at that agency, and then they're made into regulation, right? Not every agency has CFR power. The FBI does not have CFR power. They do not make regulatory rules. They are strictly enforcement, right? So your legislation is not going to reference the FBI specifically more than likely, right? You're not trying to adjust the charter of the FBI. You're not trying to, unless you see the charter of the FBI as the quintessential problem with cyber law, which frankly it's not, right? You better have a strong case for that. So I want you to start thinking, as you've identified this area where you believe legislative attention is due or warranted, as to what approach you're going to take. If you're going to take the code approach, I don't expect many of you will take the constitutional amendment approach, because I want you to take this seriously. If you propose it, remember, I'm going to send it to congressmen and women. Okay? It's going to Congress with your name on it. So mean it. Okay? I can't stress that enough. It's also going to Congress with my name on it, so please mean it. Okay? But it's going to Congress because Congress is constantly looking for ways to gain insight as to how they should proceed. They're not experts in cyber. Look at the rules that they have passed and the rules that they haven't passed, and it's easy to see that they're not experts in cyber. The whole reason there is a class dedicated to cyber law is because this is an evolving field, right? Otherwise, it would just be law. If it were well understood and commonly understood, it's not like we're in law school where there's motor vehicle law, there's liability law, tort law, civil law, criminal law, all those things. That's not the case, right? For us, we could, over in criminal justice, we're going to take a law class, and it's going to cover issues of privacy, it's going to cover issues of speech, it's going to cover issues of due process. It's also going to cover issues of, what is and is not a crime in general. And if something online meets that same definition and is later well understood, it's just going to be law. It's not going to be cyber law, right? This class is about the evolving parts, the changing parts, the parts that don't fit. I was having a discussion just today with a political science professor where we identified one of the key issues that we see as problems, because I told her what your final project is, and she said, man, that's an awesome project. I would love to see their work, see what areas they're interested in. And then she says, has anybody ever touched on child pornography? And I said, well, child pornography is already addressed fairly substantially in terms of penalties applied and whatnot available for prosecution, and latitude in prosecution, right, to go after child predators. Those laws exist. But a couple of my students in the past have tried to address sexting issues. For example, and you guys can do this too, this is one of those areas that unless that legislation has already passed, everything is open. Okay? So, for example, if you see a problem with 15-year-olds sexting back and forth, and that's not to say that sexting isn't a problem to begin with, that 15-year-olds shouldn't be doing such things, but 15-year-olds are capable of doing lots of things that they shouldn't be doing. I remember being 15. Okay? What's that?
I had substitutes in middle school last spring. Hackers.
Yes, exactly. You substituted at a middle school last spring, and you heard stories. Exactly. They are capable of doing all kinds of things. Okay? They have brains, and they don't use them well. And they have smartphones. So, anyway, what happens is that one teenager, gender doesn't even matter, takes a naked picture of themselves and sends it to another teenager. Gender doesn't matter. Because what's just happened is there's a nude picture of an underage person being distributed. That is the creation and distribution and possession at the other end of child pornography under current statutes. Straightforward, that is the creation, distribution, and possession of child pornography in many jurisdictions around the country. Some states are doubling down on that and saying, yes, it is. That's child pornography. Other states are saying, well, let's look at this. And there's something that I'm calling, and I didn't look it up to see if anybody else has used this, but I'm calling it analog action theory. As in, if there's an analogous action in person, but it is also capable of being replicated online, do the punishments, and is there a punishment? If there's no punishment for the analogous action in person, should there be a punishment for an analogous action if it's not online? Now the thing here is that in this scenario, you have two people from a peer group, both of which are not up to their legal majority, which means technically we're not supposed to be able to hold them completely accountable for all their actions anyway. But we sure want to whenever it's immoral or makes us uncomfortable as adults. Okay? We do. And as uncomfortable adults, we say, taking pictures is bad, it's not the same. But for a lot of these teenagers, it is completely legal in almost every place in the country for two 15-year-old teenagers, sex doesn't matter, to see each other naked face to face. If they consent to it, that's not a crime. It could be in bad taste. It could get you in trouble with your parents. It could be a number of things. But it is not a crime. And for those people of that age group, sitting in their own bedroom, in the peace and quiet of their own bedroom, taking naked pictures of themselves, and sending them consensually to another person of the peer group, whom they would be legally allowed to show the same material, necessarily, in person, for them, they do not see the action as different. Because it's the same. It's the digital analog to the physical action that they are already used to and legally permitted to do, if not socially permitted to do. But
it's on a digital media, and
what happens when someone intercepts it, posts it online?
Snapchat tried to fix that.
Or not even that. What if
Snapchat tried to fix that?
But
and then they got accused of being a teen sexting app, and they quit fixing that.
But it's worse. Guy, boy, girl, boy tricks, young girl impressionable, whatever. He gets the pictures. He sends them out to his friends.
But that is actual distribution. That's not an analog. See, that's where there's a bright line in the scenario that the
it's not legal in real life to take the girl and prance her around the streets.
It is not legal to hold her over your head against her will and walk around the city square. Yes, but ease is not a standard in law. Right? And so we're already identifying, this is a great example of a place that people have strong feelings about. People say, it's just like the original discussion on pornography. I know it when I see it. I know this is wrong because I see it. I can see that it's wrong. Those two teenagers should not be sexting. Nobody should be sexting. I hate to break it to you, nobody should be sexting. Okay?
Incredibly risky behavior.
Lots of things are incredibly risky behavior. I did 85 on the freeway today. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, just in case no law enforcement listening. But if I did 85 on the freeway today, that's risky behavior. And many of you can't really criticize me for that because you've also done it. And I was getting passed. I was just keeping up with traffic. Right? So the risky behavior standard, that's not really a standard either. Right? And then we can start to see the weaknesses in our current understanding of statutes around these issues. And there's all kinds of analogs. The cyber analog for driving is driverless car, autonomous car, which has a very physical impact of a cyber analog, right? Huge. This is absolutely huge. So I need you to start to identify your area of interest. Find something you can be passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to be able to write about it. But be careful, because that passion is a double-edged sword. That double edge is, it can cut back at you because you can feel too strongly about your issue and write how you feel instead of what can be objectively measured in law or maintained and regulated in law. Right? So if you're too passionate about your issue, you're going to go off the rails. So make sure you try to maintain a little bit of objectivity as you pursue your solution. Make sense so far? So, in the U.S. Code, you need to first identify what section of the U.S. Code your law will fit in. In which section your law will fit. Right? Which means you're going to have to look at the overarching segments. You're going to have to do a little searching. Right? It's number, section, chapter, subsection. I forget which order it goes in. They'll tell you. Yes. Here's the Constitution. 3 pages. I mean, they're big pages. But it was big handwriting, too. 3 pages of Constitution. 30,000 page of USC. 50,000 pages of CFR. Those are BS numbers. I did not look it up. Okay? Well, I mean, I may have had the USC too high and the CFR too low. I don't know. Okay? But if you're interested in drones, you're going to go to the FAA and find out under which statutes their authority is granted, and then which regulations they have an impact on. If you're interested in something that impacts net neutrality, the FCC has claimed jurisdiction over that. So you're going to look into that. You need to figure out which part of the code you're going to impact, and if you intend to legislatively influence or take back something in the CFR, you need to also know which section of the CFR. So you're going to have to cite under which section of the USC your authority comes from if you're going to push down into the CFR. And you're going to have to just find which section of the USC you intend to add. If you intend to create a new agency, for example, there's no general cyber regulatory agency. There's no overarching cyber cops. You could write the charter under USC. You would find where you would put it. You could write the charter for the cyber version of the FBI, which people think is the NSA, but I mean the NSA thinks it's the NSA, right? They do have a cyber division, but it was internally defined. They defined it. Law didn't necessarily define it, right? It was part of their mandate, and it wasn't outside of their charter. But there's no agency that specifically exists that has been founded since the new millennium specifically to handle cyber. Department of Homeland Security has taken on to themselves the mantle of copyright infringement police for counterfeit goods. Okay? And why do they do that? How can they do that? They were chartered. There was a charter written and ratified. When they were created, they subsumed a number of other agencies, including the DEA, Immigrations, and Customs. Most counterfeit goods come from foreign nations. In those foreign nations, they have to get those counterfeit goods into the country somehow. Customs. That's how they do it. Because importing counterfeit goods with the foreknowledge and forethought to pawn them off as legitimate goods is a crime, and it's regulated by customs.
Kind of related to the customs and counterfeiting. So like when I was in Turkey, like there was Nike and Adidas, and they used the logos and everything because they don't really have copyright laws. So if I
a lot
were
closer to China.
Yeah. So if I were to go over there, buy my pair of nice Adidas pants for myself, not for the purpose of reselling, could I technically...
Customs has the right to seize it if they choose to do so. They're unlikely to seize them if they're on your feet. If you bought 5 boxes of them and those boxes were in your luggage, they are likely to investigate.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. The specifics of enforcement aren't what tonight's about, but yes.
Yeah, okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah. And for some of you who have a love of the finer things in life, maybe counterfeit goods are exactly where you want to be. Because DHS has a cyber component, Department of Homeland Security has a cyber component where they regulate the websites and they seize domains for either child pornography. Every single agency out there, every single law enforcement agency is on the bandwagon to catch child pornography. I got no problem with that. Get them all. But they also seize domains for counterfeit goods. If you're selling counterfeit goods, they will seize your domain. If you're a child pornographer, they will seize your domain. I did tell you guys the story about when they seized a domain and it was actually a shared hosting site like GeoCities. Yeah. And they took down 80,000 sites or something like that, all with the same thing. This was either taken down for child porn or counterfeit goods. And most people stopped at this was taken down for child porn and freaked out.
It's not going to reflect well on you.
No, it's really not. The story I read was from a grandmother's perspective, who saw the warning, but yes. Okay? So, once you have your area, you have gone in and you've researched which part of the USC you're going to be working in, and decided whether or not you have to affect CFR. Now you can start actually working. Pull in all your issues. Reference exact cases. Figure out where the existing laws have failed. Find case examples of where the existing laws have failed in the news. Right? Go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. If you can find a pattern over 10 years of where the laws have failed, that's a pretty clear indicator that you might be able to get some motion on. Right? You might actually have a chance at impacting real legislation if you can find something that has a long-term pattern of failure in the current laws. I don't know what that's going to be. That's for you. The other option is to find something so bleeding edge, like cars, like unregulated payment processors, like PayPal, for example. Third-party processing systems and membership processing systems for online transactions. Bitcoin is not well regulated, well understood, or anything. But if you're going to do Bitcoin, you're going to need to learn Bitcoin. You're going to need to learn about the blockchain. Now, good news, Bitcoin is cool, so it's not a hard read. Also, the seminal work on Bitcoin is only 9 pages long, which is really not bad. And the math is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of crazy math in that paper. Okay? And so it's not hard to wrap your head around it if you want to get to work on Bitcoin. One of our students is currently working on a graduate project. You all have to do projects at some point. Yeah, I know. One of our students is currently working on a project leveraging Bitcoin and that blockchain transaction for online voting. Now, that's a great, in theory, practical application project of computer science, information assurance and security, and digital forensic incident response and validation, right? That's great. But there's going to have to be a legal component. Something, somewhere, somehow, some municipality or federal response is going to have to allow the first online voting for public office. Currently, it's verboten, completely forbidden, right? Because of the fears of hacking it. But if you can come up with a system based on a Bitcoin-like blockchain and wallet for voting, might be all right. You very well might be all right. Also, should it be legal to sell your vote? Because if we were to move to digital voting and treat each vote as a Bitcoin, giving every single person a Bitcoin of a specific type, and I don't mean, when I say Bitcoin, I don't mean Bitcoin the currency, I mean Bitcoin a theoretical object in cyberspace, because it would probably be called Votecoin. But if everybody had vote coins for each office in which they were planning to vote, could you sell your vote? Could you transfer that Bitcoin to somebody else's wallet, that cryptocurrency to somebody else's wallet, and let them vote in your stead as your proxy?
But then if you have a politician who's overly wealthy, like there's
Now we're
plenty of
getting
people.
somewhere. So you see where this all can go,
I mean,
right?
you offer
Because the
concern
biggest problem I get,
I'll just
the
call
biggest
Rob.
problem I get with these projects, the final project for this class, and also for the final project when you guys have to do your project, is people have trouble coming up with ideas. So today is as much about helping you generate or find a process to come up with your idea as it is about the actual project. So now, we found our area we're going to work in. We've made sure that it's constitutional. We think it's constitutional because that's going to be a question. It's federal law. It best be constitutional, right? We found our section in the USC that we need to modify, improve, or revoke. We know whether or not we need to push down into CFR, whether or not we need to provide a mandate for the reevaluation or removal of pieces of the CFR, right? Congress passed a law forcing the FAA to revisit the CFR around drones just a few years ago in 2012. So that's a perfect example of them under the section, the USC that established the FAA, forcing the FAA by modifying that USC to reevaluate the CFR, over which they have purview. Right? That's a whole lot of acronyms. Everybody keep it up? Online guys, everybody good?
I'm good.
Awesome. As long as I get one of you, I'm good. So what's next? You know what area you're interested in. You know what part of law you need to work in. What's next?
Writing the draft.
We start writing. Yes. You need to write a few things. First, you need to gather your case studies, like I said, right? You need to be able to discuss them. If you were called to pitch this in person, you should be able to discuss exactly like I am doing. I looked up a bunch of cases, for example, that vote from Congress to force the FAA to modify the CFR. When Congress addressed net neutrality and told the FCC, make sure you address net neutrality, right? That was just last year. I looked these things up because I needed to be able to keep this discussion going, even if you guys wouldn't talk back to me, which sometimes happens, right? So if you are going to push this change, you're the expert in your change. It's yours. Nobody else knows it better than you. That's something a lot of people have trouble with. I won't know it better than you. Remember at the beginning of the class I told you, you already have degrees. I'm not here to teach you what you need to know. I'm here to make sure to guide you to finding what you need to know. It's not my job to fill your head full of useless knowledge. It's my job to give you the power to fill your head with your own useless knowledge. And hopefully then use it, right? That's debatable. Then it's not useless anymore and the whole system breaks. So you start writing, you gather your cases, you gather your examples. You have to show, if this were research for academia, you would have to show significance. And when we say significance, and when you're doing your project later on, when we say significance, we mean, why do we care? Why do we care? We live in a democratic republic. We've covered that ad nauseum. Why do we care? Because it's not just why does that congressperson care. It's not just because it's there, you think you've tapped into their personal ethos and you can manipulate their spirit and soul through your words. No, they don't care if we don't care. Because if they care too strongly about and push forward too hard on something that nobody else cares about, they will lose their job. Democracy does work eventually. They will lose their job if they push too hard on something that nobody cares about. The trick is to keep 51% carrying your way. That's the big trick, right? But for you to pass laws, you probably need 60% because you're going to have to get across the aisle. So your law needs to be constitutional. It needs to not ruffle too many feathers unless that's your goal. Ruffling feathers is okay. The Affordable Health Care Act did pass eventually, and it ruffled feathers and continues to do so. I see bumper stickers every single day asking for it to be repealed and or praising it. Right? You guys will see them now. It's called, what is it, frequency. It's one of the cognitive biases. When I say something, you see it more, even though you saw it the exact same amount. Yeah.
Are you sure the cards with the bumper stickers didn't just start driving closer to us after you said it?
You know what? The universe is a mysterious place. And they just discovered new states of matter. Something, both Higgs, Einstein, something condensate. It's amazing.
As in states of matter like solid, liquid, gas?
And plasma. And now there's two more, and I can't even pronounce the last one. One of them is a Higgs boson Einstein condensate something. Okay, look it up. It's amazing. But not until you're done with your homework. I'm supposed to say stuff like that. Okay? No. Once you start writing, you're going to have to tell us why we care. Not just why you care, not just what brought it to your attention, though that makes a great introduction. How did this come to your attention? Right? This is not the standard academic fare that we've been working on. This is not the objective piece analyzing this or analyzing that. This is you trying to tell us why we care as a nation about your issue. Start working on significance. Start there, because if you can't find significance, you don't actually have a problem you're fixing, and you're just adding more lines to the USC. Not that other people don't do that on the daily, but I would prefer that the work product of our semester not result in just more lines. That if we're going to present something, that it be something, like I said, that you could stand behind. So first thing is significance. You start writing on significance. And you don't even have to start telling me what you're going to do. You have to tell me why I care. Okay? Then you have to tell me that something can be done. Right? This isn't an unaddressable problem. Because if I tell you, people die. Every day people die. It could be you, or it could be you. It could be you. It's an incontrovertible fact. It could be me. I could die on the way home, right? The nation doesn't care as a whole that every single person is going to die someday. We all care individually that we're going to die, right? But nobody will take you seriously if your outward goal is to pass legislation banning death. Right? Nobody will take you seriously because it's infeasible. So you need to convince me that it's a solvable problem. You still haven't told me how you're going to solve it. You just need to convince me that it's not insurmountable. Right? And by me, I mean your legislator. Okay? And I think that we might just go ahead and aim these all at Kevin Brady, just for easy. And or you send me the name of your congressman, and I'll send everybody's congressman the packet. It'll go to everybody. That's fine with me. We might get a bigger splash. Right? Hell, we'll send it to all of them. Why not? Okay, so ignore the Kevin Brady thing. Sorry, Kevin. If you actually ever watch this. Right? We'll send it to everybody. Because I don't care who passes it, as long as someday one of my classes gets one piece of legislation.
Have you not yet?
I've only done this once. It's only been one cycle. So I don't know if I did or not. Not like anybody's written me yet and said, hey, my congressman got my legislation passed. They're too busy not passing anything right now. So I don't expect it to pass until next year. Right?
Long process.
It is a long process, and it was intended to be slow, if you recall the Constitution. It was designed to be slow. So whatever, that's a different discussion. Unless you think that the sole problem is that things move slowly, in which case you found your niche in law. I don't know where you address that, except maybe in the Constitution, but whatever. Right? Huh?
Make an amendment.
Make an amendment, I guess. So now that you've told me why we care, and that it's not that bad, things are fixable, right? Now you need to start suggesting how you would fix it. How would you fix it? What specific changes would you make? And I mean specific. You need to be able to say exactly what you're going to do. The biggest problem with politicians when they're campaigning is they say they'll do these things, but they're grandiose, right? When it comes time to propose the actual legislation, it is specific. Go read some USC. Go read some United States Code, and you will see that it is fairly specific. That's the level of detail that you need to be at. Okay? Then you need to have an intent section, because you're going to tell me what you actually intend to do. Then you're going to tell me the intended impact. Have you ever heard of framers' intent arguments? I may have mentioned them, I may not have mentioned them. But a framer's intent argument is that the Constitution was framed by the founders and should be interpreted from their point of view as a framer's intent. You're going to provide a legislative framing intent so that the goal of your legislation is well understood in addition to the mechanism of your legislation. Right? Significance, feasibility, action, intent. Intent can also be construed as desired result. And now something that is too frequently left out of these, exclusions. What do you not want to happen as a result of your idea? Anybody want to lock somebody away for something that is not something that people should be locked away for? Because unintended consequences of laws? Right here. You need to have an exclusions section so that that can be worked in. Okay? I can't tell you how long this should be. I can tell you that it's longer than our normal essay. It is absolutely longer than our normal essay. Okay? There's a lot of stuff here. Now you have to go into and you have to provide those case studies. You've referenced them. Now you need to provide just like your case briefs, you need to provide synopsized versions of these stories for reference, because your politicians are going to use your story examples as their talking points if they like your idea. If they agree with you, they're going to use your content, and the only way that you can truly steer this discussion is to provide them not just the what, when, where, and how, but the who and all of the points. You're going to provide it to them on a silver platter if you want it to be effective in the way you intended it to. Make sense? Last but not least, you're going to actually write your law. You're going to append your suggested verbiage where it fits in the code specifically. Which means you're going to draw out all those nasty lines where it says USC 47.1.2. Section 3. Whatever. And then you're going to follow the same structure as whatever USC you're in. And you're going to insert somewhere in there your law. You're going to say this is where it goes. If you're repealing a law, you're going to cite the piece of code that you want to repeal. You're going to put strike-throughs, anything you change. And you're going to then, under it, do your replacement line. And or you're going to write repealed if you don't want any replacement. You're going to literally give them everything so that they can hand it to the staff lawyer, have it verified, and put it to a vote. You're giving them the packet that they can send out and say, this is my proposed bill. If you have statistics that you think back you up, include them. If you have big, bold, pretty pictures, include them. Sell it. Give them everything that you think would be needed to provide the legislature with the ammunition they need to enact your version of change. Because that's what any new law is, it's change. It's been used as a buzzword by lots of politicians, but it's your version. Okay? Everybody good? Is it exciting or daunting?
Both.
A little both? Yeah, it's not a small project. It's not a small task. And I'm basically asking you to step up to the probably the highest height of civic and civil engagement and awareness. I recognize that because I'm telling you nothing short of write your congressman a letter that actually wants them to do something. Okay? You can even attach a cover letter and say, hey, provided is the material, this is, you can have a cover letter, 3 paragraphs, just like it would be for an interview, only this is why you want to read my stuff. This is why it matters, and this is how I think it can help you. If you have a particular congressperson that you think their record would best fit, write a cover letter, include it. And when they all get the packet, they'll see that that one was, they were your first pick. Right? Tell them why. Don't be shy. Spell everything correctly. Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay? Spelling and grammar is 20% of this grade. Because I'm not sending stuff to Congress that looks like hammered horse crap. Okay? All the rest of it is a warm-up. This is the real deal. This is why I don't give tests. Everybody's like, yay, he doesn't give tests. Joke's on you. Because this is a real work product for the real world.
But this is more exciting,
Sure.
than a test.
Sure. On the upside, there's no right answer. Notice I didn't say there's no wrong answer. Because it's totally possible to try to shirk the assignment and not actually try to accomplish anything. Don't do that. Please don't make me give you a C, because I will. Okay? Don't make me do that. Give it the time and effort it deserves. You have a month. It is not due until the last day of finals, which is Thursday the, what, 7th? 6th? Thursday the 6th. Somebody look it up. And then I'll say it again, so that it's recorded. The 5th? Thursday the 5th. These are due on Thursday, May 5th. Okay? First thing I'm going to do is run them through a spell checker. Cinco de Mayo! Woohoo! Have a margarita while you turn it in.
Yeah.
Have a margarita while you turn it in. Just do the spell check before the margarita.
During, it'll be fun.
Absolutely. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns. I want to make sure that everything about this is addressed for you guys.
I guess kind of as trivial as it sounds, general formatting, like the general font size, is it divided into sections? Is it one long letter without subtitles?
When you find your section of code, like specifically for your legislation, when you find the section of code that you're going to modify, it's already going to have a structure. You're going to follow whatever structure is there.
What about the proposal?
The general proposal is probably going to not be ACM format. It can be, right? Because you're cyber people, you're computer people, so it's not unexpected that we would present it in ACM format. Do you want to do ACM or do you want to do like MLA or something like that? APA is a turnoff to a lot of legislators, so we're not gonna APA. Yeah, the inline citations where you put the author and the year and stuff in the text,
That's the worst.
It throws people off. You know what? Why don't you just follow the ACM format, but take out the 2 columns? I think the 2 columns is the off-putting thing for people in the ACM format.
So do the kind of like subtitles and section divisions, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah, you're going to want separate sections that are well-defined, exactly the ones, you don't have to say why do we care, but you can make that a section heading. Why do we care? We care because of this. No.
You're trying to convince me.
You're trying to be effective. And if you think that your version is effective and you are proud enough of it to send it to your congressman, And if they use it, it's public record.
Do the people who propose it, do their names go on it if it's passed, or are they referenced?
That's up to you. They will ask you if you want to be included.
Yeah, I want to be included.
Are the proposals
Put my name on
documented
that.
somewhere? Like,
If they submit your version
okay.
for review, if they like what you wrote enough to submit it for review, yes,
There's public
it
record.
becomes public record.
It becomes a law. I wouldn't like to.
If it becomes a law, you'll probably get to go collect one of those pins that they sign it with. So, and they'll, frequently they pay for the flight. Just so you know. Okay? This is not a, this is not an easy assignment. I was looking for a better word than easy. Trivial, this is not a trivial assignment. If you don't start now, you won't get it done. That's why I don't give any more assignments. Last week I put up all 3 assignments for the rest of the semester except for this one. They're already up there, you already know what they are, you can knock them out or you can procrastinate, that's your choice. Don't procrastinate on this assignment. If you do, you won't get it done. Okay? I'm going to run them through a spell checker, and then I'm going to look at them like a legislator. And if I can't see what you see when you send it to me, you're not going to get an A on it. You're not going to get a C either. You're going to get a B. I'll just say it. Right? If I can't see what you're asking me to see, you're going to get a B. And I will file a change of grade form if your law passes anyway. Just so you know. If your law passes, it doesn't matter what you do in the rest of the class, I'll give you an A. I will go back. Okay? That privilege does not expire until you graduate. I'm allowed to change your grades all the way up until graduation.
But will it pass before we graduate?
That, if it's effective enough, it absolutely will. If you find an issue that is so burning, so relevant, and provide a solution that is so tenable that they have no choice but to pass it, yes, it will. Right? So it depends. Are you going to be an ideologue that shoots for the moon, or are you going to find something that is just near and dear to enough people and doesn't require a major ground shift to accomplish that you can push it through? Because you never know. You might actually be affecting agendas 10 years from now. Things like this have a way of coming back. Which is why I want to make sure that you understand the importance of it. Okay? Things like this essay have a way of coming back. All right. Other questions, comments, and concerns? Online guys, questions, comments, concerns? Do you like the assignment?
I like it.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, one last thing. Let's talk crazy rubric. I pasted the wrong one on. I'm afraid I pasted it onto all of the assignments probably. So anybody who, before I said something in class, emailed me questioning that rubric, congratulations. You get an A in the contract portion of the class. And also on the assignment. So, way to not procrastinate. The rest of you, well, if your graders couldn't tell that I attached the wrong rubric and take points off for net neutrality issues, email me and I will fix that. Okay? My dog's name is not required to be on this essay, but if it was included, give them the points. Okay? My apologies. I was trying to get everything out and I grabbed the wrong rubric. So, I own it. My bad. And if you called me on it, I think there's 5 of you, I'll give you the A for it because that contracts are a thing and this is the law class. And the reason that it's a thing, rather than establishing it as a contract and holding you to that contract, it's an example of how contracts are not enforceable if they're just absolutely absurd. If they don't fit the current context, like you can't regulate property in Florida with a Texas-based contract. You just can't do it, right? Especially if one owner is in Florida and one is in Texas. You can't regulate Florida property with a Texas contract. It doesn't work. Because you can't prosecute Florida property law in a Texas court. Right? You would have to regulate that in a Florida court. Okay? So good example. I'm gonna take the kindergarten approach and say teachable moment. Contract law. Okay? So kudos to you guys who caught it. Sorry about that. I will go back and check that last assignment and see if I did the same thing. Okay? Awesome. I was hoping that only one person would catch it. I'd send that person a sly email saying, good job, here's your A. But five of you caught it, so now it's pretty public. Okay? Hearing no objection, next week is going to be individual. If you need to go over any of the stuff for your final or anything the whole semester, next week is the week we do that. I will set aside any time that I'm not teaching one of my other classes to talk to you. I'm not giving the other classes the same privilege next week. Ethics had last week. So this is your week next week. And between now and the next class, which will be 2 weeks from today. Okay? All right. I'm going to shut the broadcast off. If anybody needs to talk off the record, that is available in just a second.